If you have children and are looking for a family-friendly store, look no further than Aw Yeah Comics. Visit one of their 3 locations, Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, and check out awyeahcomics.com for more. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Aw yeah! Step into the refraction with Drunken Avenger number 1, The Volunteer, an indie comic by Rick Reason that turns the tropes upside down. 4 men died in 9 seconds. John Stevens survived, but survival has a price. Follow @Drunken Avenger on social media for project updates and previews. Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Moose has that rare old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. Visit them in Whippany or reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. Single Bound is a new podcast hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is a regular topic of discussion. Listen and subscribe to Single Bound on Spotify and YouTube. Ever wonder what would happen if a person who knew barely anything about comics decided to absorb hundreds of Superman stories? Robbo is that kind of person, and that's exactly what he's doing on a new show called This Podcast Will Never Die. Listen and subscribe today. In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss Season 6, Episode 6, The Superman Silver Mine, is the host of Always Hold On to Smallville, returning guest, Zach Moore. Welcome to Season 6, my friend.
Howdy, partner.
How you doing there?
Is this why I'm on this episode? It's funny when you host a rewatch podcast of a TV show, and like I have, and you pick certain people for certain reasons, and I don't really think about it. And then I get given a list of episodes by you, and I'm like, why am I on these episodes? Is this because this guy's like from Texas? Was that part of your thinking?
Honestly, and I mean this sincerely, the Texas connection did not even cross my mind. At this point, it's been so long since I mapped out and assigned episodes. I honestly don't know why I thought of you for this one. But now that we've watched it and we're here to talk about it, a prior episode you were here for was Jimmy the Kid, where we dealt with Jimmy's doppelganger. So yet again, we have an episode dealing with a doppelganger. So maybe that's the connective tissue here.
Yeah, connective tissue. I'll take it. So Jimmy the Kid was fun. This one, we'll discuss.
Yeah, we'll discuss. So in this one, a wealthy prospector plans to donate land housing his silver mine to the Children's Camp Fund, but is replaced by a criminal doppelganger seeking the mine's location. This aired on March 10th, 1958, written by Peggy Chandler, directed by George Blair, and our guest cast includes Dabbs Greer as Mr. Pebble / Dan Dobie. Now, this is a beloved figure, I think, within the Adventures of Superman fandom, Dabbs Greer. He was the wrongfully convicted man at the beginning of season 2, 5 Minutes to Doom. But
okay, I think that's what I recognized him most from, but he's been in a few, right?
Well, and he goes all the way back to Superman on Earth, which you joined me for years ago at this point. He's the guy who's falling from the blimp or whatever, who Superman catches. We see very little of him.
Right.
And I'll be perfectly honest, I'd have to go back and check the tape, but when you and I covered Superman on Earth, I don't know that we really singled him out at all. Him. Yeah, so here we are to give him his flowers. I really thought he did a great job in this episode of pulling off the dual role.
You know what? I do too, because, saying, hey, I'm from Texas, you see where you're from represented in other media. Lots of people, I say that. That's like the very surface level of seeing yourself represented in other media. I'm not trying to compare myself to other things, just for the record. But when you see, Texas in multimedia, it's usually some cowboy on a farm, that sort of thing. Shout out to Superman in the Moment. It takes place in Texas. There you go. score one for George Reeves there. But you know what? I found this guy very charming and delightful because people like this exist. Just good old country boys in their cowboy hats who own land. I'm like, yes, that totally tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also have Charles Maxwell as Boris, aka Bordelaise, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the first things that jumped out at me before we get into our play-by-play, once again, man, it's all about sending these kids to camp. I feel like I should have a count in this series for the number of times they're raising money to send these kids to camp. Very important then.
We talked about that tally board before we started, and you considered it. But as I have my tally board and always on the Smallville, it's a lot of hard work. I totally understand why you didn't. But now that you've watched all the episodes again, if you did the podcast now, you would have more insight on what your categories could be. Because I too feel like I have seen these characters talk about sending kids to camp. I mean, I guess that was a big thing in the 50s, right? Summer camp for kids. And look, it's an admirable thing. Superman and the Daily Planet caring about the kids, wanting them to have a good, wholesome summer break. I totally support it. But I did track. It is amusing how often they're talking about sending these kids to camp.
Well, I will say, two things. One, I feel like an audience member reached out to share that this was something that George Reeves was specifically involved with, unless I'm totally mistaken. But the other thing I'll say, as the parent of a young child, I know firsthand the importance of having camp to fill those long summer days. So there's something to be said for that. So serving the underprivileged children of Metropolis or beyond and sending them to a safe, productive place during the summer months, I totally get it. It is just interesting. That's the go-to. It's always that. All right. What did you make of this big picture?
I enjoyed it well enough. I think it might have run out of steam near the end, maybe, but I enjoyed the double performance. The guy impersonating the other guy. I thought it was done pretty cleverly and how it was revealed and all these little things. So I enjoyed it. It's not one of the best episodes of the show, I don't think, but it's an enjoyable watch and there's some fun things that occur in it. And, I think Jimmy and Lois do get kidnapped yet again, but I do like that they expose the scheme before they get kidnapped. I feel like sometimes they don't, they just get straight up kidnapped. And this time I feel like they had a little more productivity in their hijinks this time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, one thing we don't need a tally board for is abductions of Lois or Jimmy, because there were 104 episodes, so 104. But I'll say, for myself, I enjoyed the Dabbs Greer performances. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah.
And I think overall solid episode. The scene that we'll get to where Jimmy and Lois confront the doppelganger and his accomplice, genuinely funny. There were a couple of things in there that really made me laugh, really made Jack Larson laugh too, because it really seems like he's
the Jimmy Fallon there just not holding it together on.
Yeah, really just him looking down. Yeah. I think I think you put it well about kind of running out of steam at a certain point. I think I'm going to try not to get too hung up on this, but one of the things that is a little bit of a sticking point is it becomes such a question mark as the actual location of this mine. And it's just kind of odd to me that the Daily Planet would run this big story about this guy donating his land that contains this mine without knowing themselves where the mine is or seemingly asking him for any proof as to who he is or the fact that he's the actual owner of this land. So I guess my larger questions point towards the journalistic integrity of the Daily Planet in this episode.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to publicize it, publish it in the article, but they should have at least known internally where this was to know that this guy was on the level, because you get into it and it's like, maybe this guy's a real criminal. We don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I have a hard time buying that Perry White, of all people, would just go along with this.
Well, Anthony, when it's about sending kids to summer camp, it's...
I guess that just clouds everything, right?
Get those blinders on about
yeah.
Summer camp for the kids.
All right, we can segue into our play-by-play here. Mr. Pebble, a prospector who recently struck it rich, awaits the arrival of Superman in Perry's office. He intends to donate land to the Children's Camp Fund. When Superman explains that money, rather than land, is the bigger problem, Pebble explains that the land is also home to the so-called Superman Silver Mine. Superman's so kind and gentle as he's trying to make this point about it's about the money.
So I there's always some little Clark Kent George Reeves isms in these every episode that makes it so charming. And the Mr. Pebble shows up. He's like, "Hey, it's nice to meet all y'all, but I hope Superman will be here, like y'all said." And they're like, "He'll be here." And then they cut to Clark just working away, and he looks at his watch. He's like, "Huh?" And then like he's just, I don't know, him showing up and being all smiles, and because like he got 2 seconds left, and he shows up right when he's supposed to, and is so charming. Like he's always so, but he plays these very broad but very different lanes of Superman. Like sometimes he can be hardcore with the criminals and no nonsense, but most of the time he's just smiling and happy to be there, shaking guys' hands, and he just emits joy so often, and it's fun to see.
Yeah, well said. No, I'm glad you mentioned that moment of Clark at his typewriter when he notices the time, and he's once again, I feel like bemused is the most. Is the most consistent mode for the character in the color era. And he realizes, oh, he better get moving because, if this were season 1 Clark, he would be annoyed that it was time to put on this show. Like, oh, damn it.
And then, also he goes and takes off and flies off. I'm like, where is he going?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. We get quite a few seconds of him flying, but hey, you know what? Yeah. Well, look, he wants to maintain the illusion, right? So maybe
he's coming in from somewhere else.
Yeah, he does a lap around a few blocks, and then it seems like he's coming from elsewhere.
Yeah, now that makes total sense as fans to justify that. Obviously, in the show, it's like, well, we got the stock footage of him jumping out a window and flying. We're going to use it. Like if they had unlimited funds, it would be like him coming out, dropping out the window, turning Superman, and then flying back up as Clark. Like that's how you do it if you don't have to rely on stock footage. But that totally tracks. I just thought that was amazing. Also, you get a little bit of Superman action here, if you want to even call that action, just at least him in the costume, because then you don't for like a long time until the end.
Yeah, very true. At a diner, Dan, Dobie, and Boris read about Pebble's donation, and Boris remarks that Dobie and Pebble look so much alike they could be brothers. No insert shot here of the newspaper, I was like, are they going to show us that? No.
Yeah, that is funny too. That's got to be a budget thing.
Yeah.
Because that's like such an obvious thing you do is you have them have the picture, and it would just be a screenshot or whatever of the scene we just saw of him in the office. But yeah, because honestly, for a few seconds there, I was like, is that the same guy?
Dude, 100%. So not this time, because I had rewatched this one fairly recently, but I think the last time I watched this, similar sort of thing. And I guess this is a testament to Dabbs Greer and his performance. Yeah. But so, yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. But yeah, in today's television world, it's like, yeah, you would have had just a quick shot of that newspaper with the photo, but all right.
Yeah. Also, I like how he's like, they're going to give the silver mine to a bunch of kids. And then the main guy's like, well, that's stupid. What are a bunch of kids going to do with a bunch of silver? Yeah, that was amusing. Like I like these villains, guys. They have some fun personality to them. There's so many shades of these gangsters and stuff. And these guys aren't really gangsters per se. They're just crooks. So I don't know, because they're not wearing, pinstripe suits and fedoras. There's a little bit of different energy to them than a lot of the villains on the show, I guess.
These two are more like sad sacks at the start of this. They're kind of lamenting their recent lack of opportunity. It's interesting. They're every now and then in these episodes, there are kind of interesting quirks or angles. A lot of times they're not really exploited to the extent that I think would really be more interesting, but I like whatever we get. And yes, there's definitely this sense of they've had a bad run of it lately.
Yeah.
And then now because there's even, I think one of them remarks about they've been having coffee at that diner 3 times a day, like every day. All right, we get a bit of back and forth here. Boris abducts Pebble from his Metropolis apartment and locks him in a mountainside prison, withholding food, water, and a blanket, unless Pebble will disclose the location of the mine, which he refuses. And we get to that point where Boris comes in with that lunch pail, and he taunts him with thick roast beef sandwiches, apple pie, steaming hot coffee. And I was saying,
Steaming hot coffee, you said? That almost got him, that steaming hot coffee.
Oh, that would have gotten me, man. And especially, I mean, look, this show, coffee and sandwiches, that's the go-to.
Coffee and sandwiches, yeah.
Yeah.
The apple pie would have got me, I think, of those. I'm like, oh, that apple pie.
Yeah.
But, like, if he told them where it was, But then I get, well, he can't tell him, I guess. And they even talk about this later. Lois even says, like, hey, as long as you don't tell him, you got leverage. I guess part of it's like, look, if I tell him where it is, then they could just lock me in here and not give me anything and kill me. So it makes sense that he wouldn't just give that up, because they probably would, especially if this was season 1. Maybe not in season 6, but season 1, they kill Mr. Pebble and this other guy takes his place.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Season 1, this guy would have been done for, minute 2 of the episode.
Oh, man.
But you're right. And there is that bit, and you're right. Lois articulates that later about, if he tells them, then that's it for him. But Pebble also is very altruistic, and he's really all about sending these kids to camp. It's like,
I've been hungry before.
Yeah, I've been hungry before, but these kids got to go to camp. I mean, it's really, I really admire his dedication. Now,
this man has integrity. Yes.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the criminals here, what's their end game? They just want to find out where the mine is so they could just grab as much silver as they can? Are they, is what's his name, Dobie, going to live as Pebble and take over as owner of this? Like, what do you think their end game is?
That's a good question, because originally I thought, they have access to the silver now, so they'll just go put some TNT in there and blow it up and get as much as they can, right? But then, yeah, the guy's like living in Mr. Pebble's house and wearing his clothes and doing his, maybe they were just going to take over whatever, because clearly he's a wealthy guy with a lot going on. Maybe he's just going to take over that empire of wealth that Mr. Pebble had.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to live, I guess, if you're going to do that.
No. And they even say that later on when it seems like they might never find the mine. He's like, well, this guy's already pretty rich. We can make out all right. All right. While all of this is happening, Lois and Clark discuss the fact that Pebble never told them where the mine is. Lois calls Pebble to inquire, but he says there are legal issues that need to be resolved. She grows suspicious when Pebble says he's watching all of his favorite television programs, as he only just got his first ever TV set. So I like that little bit that they dropped in there about the TV and how she was able to put that together.
That's her like slowly like putting the pieces together. It's not something blatantly obvious, and it's not something like I don't know where. Because the guy earlier, he's like, I'm just sitting here, I'm gonna watch my TV programs when he gets kidnapped. So that all tracks. And she gets suspicious. I like how Clark is like, come on, y'all. He's just a nice guy doing nice things.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I like too when Clark has a remark to Lois about how they don't know where the mine is. And she's like, how do you know? You weren't in that meeting where Superman was. And he's like, well, if you knew, of course it would be in the article. So he covered for it. But I like that little moment.
Yeah.
All right. Then Henderson arrives to share his own suspicions, namely the resemblance that Pebble shares with criminal Dan Dobie, who has a metal plate in his head and an accomplice no one has seen. So I think between this and the subsequent scene that we'll get in a little bit between Bill and Clark, I think Henderson's theory is that it's one guy, like it's Dan Dobie, and now he's passing himself off as Pebble, right? That seems to be his working theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's another angle they could have taken the episode. Like you don't have this, you don't see him get kidnapped. You just see a guy like make a change of his intentions. And you're like, well, don't need to play what if about it, but that would have been an interesting way. Because we obviously know that he has been replaced. But look, if you're Henderson, that's a very valid theory. Because it's like, have you seen this land? Have you seen this money? Like, these are good questions to be asking. Because that would have probably been, if you're just looking at it from the outside, that's a very good theory. That's probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But in any event, Clark and Bill head out to eat, and Lois and Jimmy leave to question Pebble. I wanted to follow Bill and Clark to wherever they were going to eat. I feel like that it's always the hidden, unseen lives of these characters that I'm most fascinated by. So I would have loved to follow them.
Look, I don't know if it's the era or I don't know what it is, but we will never see another Clark Kent live a life like this Clark Kent. And I think you and I both have just attached ourselves to it because it's so intriguing. Like he's just coming back from a ball game, going out to the Tip Top Club and all these like, that's not, you want Superman to like have a life, and like be like a little bit normal and not feel bad about it. Like this guy, he's smiling everywhere he goes. He's having a good old time. Like it's just something refreshing about that. And we're so interested in like heavy is the head that wears the crown nowadays when you're a superhero, right? It's like, actually, this is great. And then you can go have some fun with your buddy too. Like, I don't know. There's something about that at least you and I find, and a lot of the other guests here find compelling.
Yeah, it's like, look, our hearts are always with Smallville, but yes, that was That was a Clark with the weight of the world on his shoulders. So yeah, there is something very different and refreshing about a totally unburdened version of the character. You know, you get shades of it in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. He's playing pickup basketball games with Bo Jackson.
Yep.
It's
Yep. Golf with Phil Mickelson and all that. Yeah. So that's the
the
new Adventures of Superman.
Exactly.
Yeah. Carrying on from this. You mentioned Smallville. I just think about it's actually in the Flash episode before he became Impulse for legal reasons. The first Flash episode. Jonathan keeps trying to like get Clark to like hang out and watch a football game or something, and he's too distracted with other stuff. It's like, take a minute. You can. There's time. You know, there's time to just live some life. So absolutely. So Henderson and Clark go off, but Lois and Jimmy are on the case, aren't they, Anthony?
Absolutely. All right. So this leads to, I think, the funniest scene of the episode. Genuinely got me. At Pebble's apartment, Lois and Jimmy are greeted by Boris, who starts to introduce himself before the fake Pebble interrupts and says his name is Bordelaise. Jimmy's like, oh, like the French sauce? And then Pebble's got this bit about one of the relatives being from France. And then Jimmy goes, my grandfather's Swedish, but they don't call me smorgasbord.
Yeah. Jack Larson loved that line. That was cracking him up on camera right there.
Amazing. So I love the Bordelaise bit. And then Lois and Jimmy clock that the fake mustache that quote unquote Pebble is wearing is askew.
Yeah, because we don't see it at first. That's like this slow reveal to you as the audience, which is very clever with the blocking, because like they show up and the henchman is like, hey, you better put your mustache on. So we see him put it on real quick, and we only see like one side of his face, and they have this whole conversation.
Yeah, because I think she says something like, oh, it's an unusual mustache. And he has some line about it being like an old West style or something like that. And yeah, Jack Larson cannot hold it together. Yeah. And you could, because you see him looking down, like he's really trying to, it was so funny, man.
Because back then it's like we get 1 or 2 takes, Jack. Like, hold it together, Jack. You blew the last take. We have 5 more scenes to shoot today.
I know. I wonder, because yeah, my understanding is, this was really a one and done as far as takes go. I mean, I don't know how badly it would have to go for them to be like, all right, like we got to go again. Because I always go back to the Panic in the Sky scene where John Hamilton calls him Jiminy, and it's like they just let that fly. So, but anyway, Lois sees through the ruse and yanks off the mustache, earning herself
he's like,
and
I'm
Jimmy
thinking about shaving it, right? Because the real guy doesn't have the mustache. She's like, oh no, it suits you very well, and he rips it right off his face.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I like that Lois and Jimmy, and especially Lois, had that moment at least of figuring it out and making that move, even if that earns them a ticket to join Pebble in the mountains there.
I really like this transition, by the way, this fade, because it's the 3 of them, fake Pebble, Lois and Jimmy, all in the living room there, and they're all they're standing this exact same way, and then we fade to the cave, and it's real Pebble, Lois and Jimmy in the exact same like positions. I don't know if that's probably a happy accident, knowing how this show was produced. But I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool visual transition there. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that was intentional. I'll go with that. Back at the planet, Henderson shares with Clark that Jimmy's mother called because the boy never came home the night before.
Jimmy's mother.
Now, you're going to be joining me for the Brainy Burrow in a few weeks, and we're going to get confirmation as to Jimmy's age in that episode. We're going to find out he is 22, but look, still young, single guy, still living at home with his mother. What struck me about this is we had an episode in season 1 where Jimmy's mother called Clark in the middle of the night. Season 1 Clark had no time for that. I'm sure he's fine. Go to sleep. This Clark, though, very concerned. He's like, oh, that's very unusual for Jimmy.
Yeah. No, that is, I clocked that as well, especially knowing that we're going to talk about his age later on this season. So that was funny to me, which means, I don't think we can really do the math on Adventures of Superman the way you can like on Smallville, where it's like, well, it's season 6 and season 1 was 5 years ago. Like, who knows how much time passes on this show? Because it's like, well, so-and-so, we put him away 5 years ago. I'm like, but it's the 2nd season. Like, I don't like, that means you were here. Like, one season of Adventures of Superman does not equate 1 calendar year. It could be a month. It could be 3 years. There's really no way to know because it's so episodic. So I don't know. We have no control test to how old Jimmy really is throughout the show, but we know here and now he's around 22.
Yeah, absolutely. And still living at home. She's still keeping tabs on him. Yeah. All right, when they realize Lois isn't in either, Clark heads over to Pebble's apartment and uses his X-ray vision to see the metal plate in Dobie's head. Did you like all this back and forth with Boris and waking him up and all of that?
Yeah, even before that, though, with Henderson, right? Henderson's like, what are you going to do? Like, take him to an X-ray machine or use your X-ray vision like Superman? And Clark's like, whoa, one or the other, Bill, one or the other. Like, it's that, I don't know if it's the comics code or what it is, but like, he can't lie. So he's always talking and he's like, well, maybe I might not. Like, and they laugh it off. But then what's interesting is Clark's like, well, you want to come with me? And Henderson's like, no, I got to go meet the commissioner. All right. And he's like, okay. I'm like, why are you offering him to come with you? Like, you need to not have another guy there, right? But I guess he did go as Clark. He didn't go as Superman. I guess at this point, I expected him just to bust in as Superman. So I just thought it was funny that usually Clark's trying to get out of people going with him. And this time he's like, hey, Bill, you want to come along?
Yeah, actually, that was kind of curious. Yeah, you're right. But yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
He just gets off on almost being revealed this entire show. He really enjoys it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a thread across the series. I mean, he, is just so brazen about it in so many instances. And I agree wholeheartedly about this whole idea of him never technically lying. Mm-hmm. Right. And there's kind of a lot that's swallowed up in that. So, that was interesting.
But no, Clark shows up and the guy, the thing is, right, they know that his name was what's the guy's real name? The henchman?
Boris.
Like they knew the name, but they didn't know what he looked like. That's why I had to make this Boris sauce or Bordelaise sauce name. But I like the fake Pebble, like impersonating Pebble, like the whole time. Like even when like the first phone call, he's like, oh, Miss Lane, oh yeah, or like, why don't you wrestle up some drinks for these fellas? Like he's doing a good job playing this guy who he's never met. I guess he just assumes he's this Southern guy. I don't know. Like I enjoy the whole trying to fool everybody thing here. But he sleeps too late, Anthony. That's what gives him away.
Yeah, he doesn't keep prospector hours. And I love how Clark plays on that. Right? When Boris is trying to get rid of him, he's like, oh, he's still, Mr. Pebble's still asleep. And he's like, well, he must be getting up soon, keeping prospector hours. So, I like that. But yeah, I mean, we've seen this before with the Jimmy the Kid episode that you and I did. And of course, going back to the classic, The Face and the Voice, it's multiple different iterations that the actor is playing. Right here, Dabbs Greer is Pebble. He's Dobie, and he's Dobie playing Pebble. So it's
such a layered performance. No, and I made this point during Jimmy the Kid, right? Where it's like today there would be shapeshifters and possessions and all in soul swaps and all this stuff, right? That Smallville, I guess, right? But that's now. But then it was doppelgangers and plastic surgery. Like that was the genre thing then. And there, I mean, I'm on a couple of the episodes. You mentioned Face and the Voice. I mean, 3 out of 104 is not bad for the whole doppelganger thing. Like, I don't think they went back to the well too much. That's a fun trope of any fiction, especially science fiction, which is what this sort of is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you look back to an episode like Flight to the North, they could have gone the route where
George Reeves plays the other guy.
Yeah, instead of it being Chuck Connors, it was George Reeves, right? I'm glad they did, and it was great to have Chuck Connors in that role. But yeah, there are instances where they could have done that, and I'm glad they didn't. Yeah, that's true. All in all, for all of those episodes, they they didn't do that too many times.
Yeah.
All right, so as Superman, he follows Dobie and Boris to the mountains, where he knocks out Boris and frees the captives. This next part is wild, man. Superman then magnetizes a pipe with his X-ray vision to pull a fleeing Dobie back up the hill by the metal plate in his head. I feel like this guy would be dead.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe everyone who listens to this watched the episodes. Maybe you don't, but just so you guys know what we see, they clearly filmed the stuntman falling down the hill. And then when Superman used the magnet, they reversed that footage. So this guy is just tumbling head over heels backwards up this hill. I thought the metal plate in the head was just to identify the two guys, right? Because they're like, we can't compare their fingerprints because Pebble's not even in the system because he's not a criminal, right? So they had to determine somehow. That's how Superman could like, okay, I know he's fake. And I was like, okay, fair enough. That's why he has that. But then when like he starts running away and they're all like, Superman, he's getting away. He's like, well, I don't think so, Jimmy. And then I'm like, what is he doing? He pulls this pipe, puts it in half. I'm like, what are you going to throw it at him? What are you going to do? And then this is the era of like X-ray vision does all kinds of stuff, which is interesting. I think honestly, if you have X-ray vision, it's more than just see-through stuff. But he magnetizes this thing somehow and uses it to pull him back. He could have easily just jumped over there and stopped that guy. But this is, I don't know. This is that like street level Superman who's just, you know what, this guy deserves to be beat up a little bit. Drags him up a hill by his head plate. Which that's the physics of that. I question.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, this was wild. And I had the exact same thoughts, like even upon rewatch, because I had forgotten that part exactly. I don't know how I forgot, but yeah, I was thinking he was going to throw the pipe at the guy. But exactly to your point, I thought this as well of like, it would have taken nothing for Superman to just jump down there and get this guy. But it's like, no, he wanted to put on a show / make a point. I mean, look, this guy got in the way of kids going to camp.
Oh no, we can't have that.
So I feel like all notions of fair play are out the window. I mean, he's gonna use a magnet to pull the metal plate in this guy's head.
Well, look, it's absurd, but how many episodes? I'm tired of all the episodes where he shows up and bangs a guy against a tree or against each other and they pass out, because he's not going to engage in fisticuffs anymore because we're in season 6 now. So it does make the end a little different than it would have been. Also, this particular Superman he has some personality to him, and some you know, like one of the last episodes I was on, like he's hiding in a safe and he pops out. I think it was Jimmy the Kid, right? He's hiding in a safe. He pops out of that. Like, doing things like that add character to just what could be a generic save, and adds a little more quote unquote action to the end of the episode.
Yeah, no, like I'm glad the show did it. I mean, it stands out in a way that the head bonks and the karate chops just don't.
No.
But the thing that's so interesting to me is that like we're in this era of the show where, like you're saying, fisticuffs are considered too violent, yet this is okay. I mean, I'm far more troubled watching this, wondering how this guy survives. Like, how that plate didn't just get ripped out of his head.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, that's terrible. No, but I guess if you're a kid at home, you can't magnetize your friend up a hill by his head. But if you're a kid at home, you can knock out your friend, which I guess was the concern, right? We didn't want to show violence that Superman was doing at this era of the show, but unreplicatable violence is what we saw here.
Here's my alternate ending.
Yeah.
The magnet rips the plate out of this guy's head. He's dead.
Oh my!
We get Jimmy. He's like, Jeepers Superman. I think that guy's dead. And Lois, Jimmy, and the real Pebble are packing a bag for Superman Mountain, and that's the last we see of them. For the last 7 episodes of the series, it's just Clark and Perry.
Just Clark and Perry.
All right, our last tiny bit here is that Pebble, the real Pebble, reveals that the silver mine was right over there all along, and they all share a hearty laugh, none heartier than Superman himself. He thought this was so funny.
Right here, this like that is yeah, I did not feel the joy. Like, I don't know, that a forced joy at the end of this episode. Like, I don't know. And also, like, what was this mine? You know what I mean? Like, was that ever really established? They just kind of take him out to this. That's very convenient and quite a coincidence, right?
Oh, like where they're imprisoned? Yeah, I know. That was never explained. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I feel like that's a hole in this, because it's like, why would they take Pebble to this location of all places, yet be so in the dark as to where the actual mine is? Yeah, I feel like we needed something. There needed
because
to be
they didn't
some
know,
line.
because Superman had to, like, Clark was like hiding and had to follow them, because like he had to stir them up to go to the place. That was his plan, to find out where they were.
Yep.
So this was not even on the radar. So I don't know. Like, I watched it a couple of times. I don't think I missed anything. They just say, they got to the end of the script like, oh, we didn't say where the mine was. I guess why don't we just make it this? Like, did they see any silver where they were in that room? I don't know. It's just very convenient.
Well, and that's where, honestly, it's like, yeah, we could have used a line earlier on to explain why the criminals were using that specific location as the prison. But I think the quicker, easier fix is you just cut or change that last line about where the mine actually is. I know they wanted that punch of, oh, it was right there. But I don't know. I feel
He's
like that
if
could
they
have.
worked a little harder at digging instead of living my life, they would have found another silver or whatever. That's basically what he says more or less at the end. And like, aha, look at them. They were going for that reveal of a laugh because you're not going to laugh at like, it's right over there, 2 clicks to the right as the crow flies. You don't laugh at that. You laugh at it was here all along. Ha ha. So they were hit or miss at these tags at the end. Sometimes I do enjoy them. Like a wink to the camera, everybody has a good laugh, but usually when Jimmy's doing something silly and that works, but this one not so much. Oh well.
Yeah, I know that hearty laugh only gets you so far. All right, so out of 5 Great Caesar's Ghosts, how many are we giving this one?
You know, I forget sometimes. Do we give halves?
Yeah, halves are allowed.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think I've given things like 4.5 before. I 3.5 Great Caesar's Ghosts.
Okay,
I enjoyed it a lot, despite it kind of running out of steam and being like really quick, convenient plot cleanup at the very end. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the dual performance. I enjoyed the Clarkisms as always. I enjoyed Lois and Jimmy, what they had to do here. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 5 Great Caesar's Ghosts.
All right, solid. I've been debating because I'm like, it's not a 1, but it's not a 4, and I've been like between 2 and 3. I'll go 3. I go right down the middle here.
Yeah.
And I'll say that. And for exactly those reasons, the performance and that scene with Bordelais and Jack Larson cracking up. I mean, it legitimately made me laugh, like laugh out loud. So that counts for a lot. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 3. All right. So you are going to be back for the Brainy Burrow a little later this season. One of the final 3 episodes, all directed by George Reeves. So I'm excited to have you back for that. The next 2 episodes that we're going to be covering are Pepperwinkle episodes. So all you Pepperwinkle fans, get ready. We're going to have the big forget next week with fellow Superman podcaster Michael Bailey. So I hope everyone comes back for that. And speaking of Superman podcasting, what do you want to share with folks about Always Hold On to Smallville?
Well, Always Hold On to Smallville is my Smallville rewatch podcast. We have concluded our episode by episode coverage. And when this episode comes out, we have a lot of other stuff that has taken place after the series. That we have some special fun projects looking back at the seasons and episodes and favorites. Also, there's still lots of comic books and novels of Smallville out there to cover. And I'm still holding out for that Smallville, the animated series, Anthony, brought to you by Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum. We'll see if we get that animated season 11, huh?
We'll believe it when we see it, but I'll be there and I'll look forward to your coverage. First. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, audience. Make sure you keep tuning in. And until then, as always, only Superman can do super things. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. Another way to support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, is by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your podcast platform of choice and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Flat Squirrel Podcasts is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today. Another exciting episode is a Flat Squirrel production. Key art by Greg Schiegel and theme music by Dan Pritchard.